Alright, so I'm going to get into my presentation about pastoral poetry. So I know that we've already gone over pastoral poetry in class, but I wanted to reiterate exactly what it was and what the Poetry Foundation defines it as. So they say that pastoral poetry is verse in the tradition of Theocritus, who wrote idealized accounts of shepherds and their loves living simple, virtuous lives in Arcadia, which is a mountainous region of Greece. And then it goes on to say that the pastoral poem faded after the European Industrial Revolution of the 18th century, but its themes persist in poems that romanticize rural life or reappraise the natural world. Alright, so I wanted to go over this poem quickly. That is a pastoral poem called The Passionate Shepherd to His Love by Christopher Marlowe. Come live with me and be my love, and we will all the pleasures prove, that valleys, groves, hills, and fields, woods or steepy mountain yields, and we will sit upon the rocks, seeing the shepherds feed their flocks. By shadow rivers to whose falls melodious birds sing madrigals. And I will make thee beds of roses, and 1,000 fragrant posies, a cap of flowers, and a kirtle, embroidered all with leaves of myrtle. So I realized that on the surface, this poem definitely seems like your stereotypical poem with rhyme and very uniform stanzas. And to some degree, it is a stereotypical poem. This particular poem was actually published in 1599, making it one of the first pastoral poems of the 16th century, when this style of poetry, pastoral poetry, began. So this poem has really been built upon for more than 3 centuries, if you think about it. So it definitely makes sense that it would resemble a quote-unquote typical looking poem. Alright, so next I want to go on to discuss whether this specific poem, Lycidas by John Milton, is a pastoral poem or not, and why. Alright. Yet once more, O ye laurels, and once more, ye myrtles brown with ivy never sere, I come to pluck your berries harsh and crude, and with forced fingers rude, shatter your leaves before the mellowing year. Bitter constraint and sad occasion dear compels me to disturb your season due. For Lycidas is dead, dead ere his prime, young Lycidas, and hath not left his peer. Who would not sing for Lycidas? He knew himself to sing, and built the lofty rhyme. He must not float upon this watery bier, unwept, and welter to the parching wind, without the meed of some melodious tear. So this poem is actually a pastoral poem, even though it talks about death rather than what we think of as pastoral poems with an idyllic life that traditionally would be tended to focus on. Lycidas is an example of a pastoral elegy, actually, which concerns mourning, and it still incorporates the natural world or nature, which you typically would see in pastoral poems. And then last, I just wanted to finish up with some fun facts about pastoral poetry. So pastoral is actually a specific genre that can apply to literature, art, and music in addition to poetry, so it's not just specific to poetry, which I did not realize. Adapted it into Latin, so you can see how long it's been around and what a staple it was and has been in the world of poetry. And then my last fact is that corruption of city life as opposed to rural life, which pastoral poetry usually talks about, is often used in pastoral poetry, and through this, political statements are often made. So I thought that was really interesting. But thank you so much for your time.